everybody, it's George here from NVISION, and we are doing another episode of Brews and Buzzwords, and today I got a special guest that I ran into at a large corporate event, I'd like to say December or January of last year. We got talking. I really like this guy. He brought up some really cool insights on his world and what he's been doing. He is the host of 100 Ways to Make 100K in 100 Days. I believe I said that correctly. It's a mouthful, but I got it right. I got Javon Martin here with me, and we're going to talk today about branding and branding in 2024 and what that means. So welcome to the show, man.
Well, thanks so much.
Great to have you.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, George. Now, do you remember what the insight was that we spoke about? It was at Rescue 7's Winter Carnival.
Yes.
I had these cool glasses on.
Yes.
Yeah, and you were like, dude, I love these.
And so if I recall correctly, you were there to help kids snowboard.
Honestly, I was just there. You know,
Right.
John said, bring your friends, bring your enemies. None of mine were interested in attending. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll just come by myself and we'll see what we could do. But I thought the mountain was going to be like a mountain, except it was like a bunny hill.
This is a hill.
I was like, okay, cool. I'll do like 2 runs and then I'll help people. There was a time, I don't know if you got this in your research, but there was a time I used to be a snowboard instructor.
Well, I do have that in my research, and I recall you telling me all that day.
Yeah.
And we started hitting it off, and we started having some good conversations around everything that you do.
Yeah.
Started talking about videography and your services, and then I started checking out your podcast and
Thanks, man.
all
Appreciate it.
the things that you've
It's
done.
100 ways to make 100K. We're on the hunt to find 100 different ways to make 100 grand a month. Sorry. Dude.
I think that's exactly what I said, but he says it much better. So Javon and I had a chance to actually connect after the event a few months later. We grabbed a bite to eat. We got caught up, and we said, it'd be a great opportunity to have him here, talk shop, and really start talking about what it takes to stand out. Because a lot of the stuff you do for your clients is to help them stand out and their brand stand out. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of this conversation, tell the audience what you do and, the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ways of doing hundreds and hundreds of things with hundreds and hundreds of thousands. But you're much more than that.
Oh, thanks.
So tell people what you do. Introduce yourself.
Cool. So my name is Javon. Last name is Martin. Online, I go by Javon.ca. I make videos for all sorts of companies, a lot of event coverage, a lot of podcast style, a lot of talking head, anything that needs like a testimonial brand video. These are types of the things that we do and create for clients. I got a little bit of real estate as well inside. That's a little bit of personal life. But yeah, other than that, I've just always been extremely curious and I love asking questions. So I find, director's seat or a podcast host type of role as some of the favorite things that I enjoy about what it is that I do with videos. How did you get into what it is that you do?
I'm the one asking the questions.
Okay. You're gonna have to say that a lot this episode, man. I'm a curious dude, George.
Well, this is one of the things that intrigued me about you, because you did ask a lot of questions and we were going back and forth on our worlds. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of overlap, right? When we talk about storytelling and brand. Yeah. And one of the things that captivated me about you, which was your curiosity. I love curious people. I'm a curious mind myself.
We're talking to Curious George right now.
Hey. So, that was really captivating because I really get a genuine sense from you that your curiosity is really authentic.
Sure.
Like when you're asking these questions, it's because you do want to learn and you want to, understand people's positioning on certain, strategies or what they're doing. And I see that translate into the work you put out.
Cool.
Truthfully. So when I watch your work, I'm like, man, he must be asking some good questions because he's getting some good feedback from the sorts of clients that you help service. Mm-hmm. So what is your strategy when you go into a new client and you're about to do, you're about to tell somebody's story?
You got 2 different types of people. Some think going viral is going to be the answer to all of their questions. And the ones that have already tried to make viral content and realize it's really hard are just interested in shortening their sales cycle. So I like focusing on the conversations that shorten the sales cycle. So really, that's where all the curiosity comes from. Now, a lot of these clients that I've serviced, I've been a customer. So I know the questions that I asked along the journey. And there's ways on Google that if you type in any of these questions, if you just hit the related, it's going to pop up the most frequently searched questions that are adjacent to it. So that's a great source for inspiration. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've got AI tools that you could say, ask me this, like what questions would a customer asking about this be curious about? You could expand through there. And generally, some of the things that I've seen online, like if you go into the comment section of other popular posts that are related, you can find some of the things that people are discussing. And really, the thing about social media, in my opinion, is especially when you're like a small account, right? Like a lot of people really only need 1 or 2 extra customers to make their year, right? And if you're talking about a realtor, for example, if you get one person who's gonna, let's say sell their home with you, buy another home with you, and then from the proceeds buy an investment property, you all of a sudden get 3 transactions out of 1 customer. Mm-hmm. Then, not to mention the customer for life aspect of it. So if you could answer questions that will shorten your sales cycle, where if you're in the discovery phase with a client, for example, and they're asking about rates and what they're doing today, or if they're asking about what's your perspective on, investment properties here versus there, if you're answering these questions in your content, sure, it's going to answer that for a wider audience, but all of a sudden now you could reference these materials that you've created in your sales conversation. Mm-hmm. But business owners in general, like one of the biggest expenses is time. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you realize when you're in business, you've been in business, 21 years, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah.
How many of the conversations are the same fucking conversation?
Yeah.
You swear here?
You can swear as much
as
you
fucking want. Conversation, dude, over and over and over again, bro. Yep. Whether it's with an employee, whether it's with a partner, whether it's with a vendor, whether it's with a customer, of course. Right? Like you find that the clients in discovery, they're generally asking most of the same things.
Of course.
So if we could make content that all of a sudden saves you from having a conversation, dude, what's your time worth? What would you say your hour? What's that hour of George's time worth?
A lot of money.
A lot of, dude, more than this fucking coffee costs, man. Thanks, bro. Appreciate
You're welcome
it.
for the coffee. Yes.
Yeah.
What I'm curious to know, because I have a position on, the unique nature of what differentiates you in a big C. Like, okay. Like there is a lot of people that are probably answering that very same question. Yeah. So what sorts of techniques are you using to ensure that your realtor or the clients you're working with are standing out? In the way that they're responding. And I think one of the things that I noticed is the way you capture film.
Okay.
Is quite neat. Appreciate like I like the quality and how you frame the individual. The lighting is good. So what sorts of things are you doing? Because your videos to me kind of stand out.
Oh, appreciate that. Yeah. A lot of people comment on the quality.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, dude, this is the Mercedes-Benz video. Like, this looks great.
Yes.
And dude, if I got the same sauce as Mikey, man, that's all that it comes down to, right? You got to know your lighting. Yeah. You got to know your sound. You got to know your camera angles. So like, that's like asking Basquiat how he strokes the paint, right? It's like, dude, I don't know. I aim to the corners, look at where the lighting is coming from, aim for Rembrandt, like it's something that you guys have here, right? If you guys look at, like the camera's on the shadow side of my face. Yes. It's probably leaving a little shadow right here. There's like a nice little shadow.
The wrinkle.
You know what I mean? He's got the magic camera, right? And then you got like a little kicker on my hair. You got a little thing up top. You know what I mean? It's like,
but that's okay. So now you framed it well.
Yeah.
And not everybody's great in front of a camera.
No.
What techniques do you use?
Dude, that's the part
that's the magic.
And this is the part that's tough, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at like trying to scale this operation, mm-hmm. I have to find these people that are actually good on camera. So everybody wants videos, but not everybody needs to be on videos.
For sure.
Let's be honest.
Not everyone can.
Not everyone
Even if they want to, they're not necessarily suited for it.
There's some people you meet, you're like, you should write a blog. Yeah.
Well, that's okay.
And that's fine. You know, at the end of the day, content is content, right? You know how they define content, George?
Well, I know how we define content, but go ahead.
How do you define content? I'm curious.
Content is content. Yeah. Copy is content. Yeah. Anything can be content. Mm. Anything can be content.
And that's the
and it can be leveraged on countless channels.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of it, right? Like my girl and I were arguing about it the other day. She used to be a content manager for some social agency. Now she's managing a bar. But before we were having this very passionate debate about like what's content. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, this isn't content. This is terrible, right? And I'm like, well, whether it's bad or good, it's still content. And she's like, no, this is not content. I'm like, well, technically it kind of is, right? And she's like, no, it's not good enough. And we're like, well, what's the dictionary say? We ended up about an hour and a half in and we're like, okay, we have to go to bed. Like we should probably just look it up in the dictionary and define it. And it's defined as any medium to share any message or anything.
Right.
And it's like, The person preparing their class for a bunch of third graders, that's content. You know, the person preparing their speech for a TED Talk, that's content. Mikey whipping up these edits, that's content, right?
Of course.
Someone whipping up a blog, still content, right? So it's been a really interesting discussion, and I think content is the only way that you're able to replicate yourself. But making people good on video, it's really tough.
I have my opinion on content too. Content has to be authentic.
Mm.
I mean, you generate content with a objective in mind, but if it comes across as overly manufactured or overly produced, I think it loses some of its authenticity.
Okay.
Unless you're a professional actor or an actress.
Yeah.
I think you got to be very conscientious of when you're projecting a certain message. It's not the hard sales pitch. You're trying to problem solve by being authentic, right?
Mm. Now, how would you define authenticity, though? Because it's mentioned relatively often online. People are like,
Very much
content has to be authentic, but like, to you, what does that actually mean?
It's what's authentic to you. It's not necessarily like how somebody's going to perceive it, because you don't have control over the perception of your content, right, in the world. But I think you can oftentimes sniff out a bad actor. You know, it's very easy, right? And you see it oftentimes where people will put themselves in positions where you've never seen them do a TikTok dance video, and not to say that there's anything wrong with that if that's your jam, but that's not them.
Yeah.
That's not who they are in public or in the private confines of their office or their home.
Yeah.
So they're putting on this manufactured perception of who they are for likes, for shares, for whatever. Yeah. You know, and it's that's what you can sniff those out pretty quickly if you've, I've been doing this long enough.
Yeah.
That I can point them out. Yeah. But needless to say, I really gravitate to the videos that are genuine and authentic and pure.
Yeah. One of the things that I do try to avoid, or at least try to suggest, is to avoid telling people what they need to do or what they should do. You know, like that's kind of like my only hard rule is don't tell people what they need to do. You know, just present them with options. I'd rather someone not be in a position to argue them online. So for instance, if you're like, everybody should wear black socks, there's some hater online. You know the Black Sox song. You know the Black Sox song?
No, but I got black socks on.
You do. Say everybody should wear black socks. Okay. All right. But I hate the word should. Again, suggesting that you should do this because you're a person. It's like, dude, I'm on the other side of a screen. You don't know me. Yeah. Like you don't even know. You want to tell me I need to wear black socks. You don't even know me. Cancel. Right? So I try to avoid putting people in positions where they're stating kind of like you should or you need to's, and more of when I did it, this is what I did. So speaking from more of a place of experience, because if you're like, yeah, I'm George, I just like black socks way more. Nobody online can be like, dude, you're wrong. Right? You're like, dude, I just like black socks. That's real. That's for me. Right? So if all of a sudden you're saying, you know what, everybody needs to wear pink socks because pink socks are the way. It's like, no, try to avoid. I would suggest avoiding, you shoulds or you need to's, and just let them know, hey, this is what I did, and just tell stories of the experiences that you've had, and that's one sure way to at least, with 100% assurance, go online and speak with confidence. Right? I'm not going to tell you this is how you make money. I'm just going to tell you, hey, I met this person who makes money this way. Here's what they had to say. Right? So
I think there's, for the general public, that works.
Yeah.
I think there's circumstances where I want my doctor to say, you should rest your knees. Or you should go see a specialist. Like there are situations where if I'm getting videos from a practitioner of any sort, I would prefer that they say I should be doing a certain thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I think, you might want to consider.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's contextual and it's got to be relevant to the nature of whatever is being produced, right?
Agreed.
So, and that's what leads to like that personalization of brand experience. So when you're, approaching a custom tailored brand experience for different types of clients or different industries, what sorts of questions do you ask to understand your client? Like before you get into an interview state with them.
Yeah.
Where you're, okay, we're about to hit the record button.
Yeah. So one of the first questions that I like to ask is, why are we even doing this in the first place? Like,
Sure.
what do you want to happen as a result of you doing this? Right? Because you're about to spend X amount of dollars on creating content. You're about to spend amount of time, amount of mental capacity, and other resources on creating something. What do you want to happen? And kind of work backwards from there. Usually that sets the North Star.
So defining the outcome, the outcomes they're looking for,
Exactly.
not the outputs, the outcomes.
Yeah. Because we start with the outcomes and then it's like, okay, well, the only thing we could really reliably control are the inputs.
Right.
Right. And before we actually embark on that journey, it's like, okay, let's try and at least based on our experience, try to craft some form of input that we think will lead to whatever the outcome ideally is.
So let's get into your podcast.
Yeah. What do you want to know about?
So what is it? Tell the world. What's it all about? I mean, I butchered it at the the but
no, dude, you did it fantastic. I'm going to change the name. Okay. So that I could use that as my intro.
I'm going to trademark it, but you can do it.
Oh, damn it.
All right, it's all yours.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thank you, George.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so it was funny. So originally from the GTA, something happened. I ended up going viral online, got way too many inquiries and spun into depression because when I got inquiries from all sorts of angles, a lot of different shapes and sizes, when you try and hold them, it's like trying to hold water in your hand. And, maybe an inquiry will come in via DM and you're trying to entertain the discussion. And then all of a sudden 10 more DMs come in and now you don't even remember who it was that you were talking to. And you were just in the middle of making plans and now it's vanished. And it's like, I don't even remember where this was. So at the time I wasn't skilled enough to know, okay, let me take these out of the DM and move them to an offline conversation sooner rather than later. Let me add a booking link, right? So I got all these inquiries and spun into this depression. I was sitting in my mom's garage for like 6 weeks trying to turn any of these opportunities into reality and nothing could materialize. It was depressing, dude. It's like you ask for the sword, but now you realize you don't have the skills to wield it. And it's like, oh my gosh, what now? So I ended up moving to Windsor. I helped my cousin with some real estate stuff. At first we were doing marketing and then he's like, the accountant just quit. So like 2 days in, I'm like, all right, cool. I'll just do the accounting, see a need, fill a need. And I dropped out of CPA before. So I kind of had like a little bit of an accounting background. So ended up over time, we were working really closely. It was during the real estate boom during COVID as well. So the company ended up tripling in size, 18 months or so. During that time, I bought a couple of properties, ran out of money on a reno and was faced with this problem. It's like, okay, I need to do something for more income. Property management isn't necessarily the vehicle to do that. Realtors might make 15 grand on a deal. As the property manager, you make 1,500 for the year and you got to deal with all the headaches. So I'm like, maybe I'll be a realtor. Don't really want to live in Windsor. Maybe I'll do something a little bit more remote. I'm really process driven. Maybe I'll do mortgages. Okay, cool. I'll get my mortgage license, start making content for the first time in like 2 years. But this time I had a Calendly. Felt like I was the man, like, okay, you want to talk? Hit my booking link.
Booking link.
Exactly.
Step it up.
Exactly, bro.
Yeah.
The man.
Yeah.
26 appointments my first week, dude. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Right. So 20 of them were mortgage conversations. Absolutely hated it.
Okay.
Right. One of them, 5 of them were other agents saying, hey, who's doing your content? We need that at our brokerage. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that. Right. So next thing you know, I'm doing all these different things, not making any money. And the last one was Snapchat saying, hey, do a show for our discovery platform. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? So now all of a sudden, property management, losing money on a renovation. I just started mortgages. So now I'm trying to figure out mortgages. I'm getting distracted by other shiny objects. Now I got videos again and now I have a show. So I'm doing all these different things, not making any money, George.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I ended up joining one of those masterminds that you see on the internet that you always think is a scam, and it was the craziest thing I ever did, right?
And crazy good or?
Oh, crazy good, man.
Okay.
Anything that's going to give you information and put you in a new environment, I would deem as a positive investment.
Of course.
Right? Because at the end of the day, the other day I went to a conference, 40,000 people, and then I was having a conversation with someone after, and they're like, I can't believe I just talked to someone and they said they didn't walk out with anything. And I'm like, dude, listen, if you're in a room of 40,000 people and you don't even walk out with a new friend, that's on you. That's not on the environment.
Of course.
Right. So I'm in this real estate environment, man, and it was wild, bro. There's 22-year-olds making 20 million a year teaching people e-commerce. There's a guy with 1,000 rental units who teaches firefighters how to buy rental apartments. There's a guy with 700 mobile home parks. There's a guy with $30 million worth of self-storage. There's an old couple, they've got like 60,000 storage units, dude. It's wild, right? One of the guys that I meet, he's doing 800 grand a month in wholesaling. And he's like, yo, I saw your videos online, dude. They're sick. Yo, how do you make videos like that? I'm like, you want to know how to make videos, bro? I'll teach you. It's easy. Set up the camera, hit record, but how do I make money like you? And he's like, oh, that's easy. You take all those 6 things that you're doing, you cut all of them except for one and watch what happens. And I'm like, okay. So I'm driving back from Colorado, 22 hours, right? My girl's like, can we listen to music? I'm like, no, I'm thinking, right? And just thinking about what I'm going to do. I ended up going back to my mom's place. And my little brother at the time, he was 16. And, dude, I'm a black guy, right? Like, let's face it. My little brother, he's a black guy too.
Okay.
And him and all his friends are sitting at the couch. I'm like the cool older brother, right? Because I got orange shoes, right? So they're like, yo, he's got the shoes. But like when you're 16, the old people are cool, right? Like especially if it's someone's older brother. Like you're the oldest person that I know that's not my parents, right? Like I'm gonna listen, dude. And you guys seem cool. Like I'm down, right? So they're like, yo, should we tell them? Should we tell them? What are you guys talking about? Tell me what. They're like, no, we can't tell them. Wait, dude, tell me what? And they're like, we got a great idea. I'm like, okay, what's your idea? They're like, we're going to quit our job at McDonald's. We're going to sell drugs. And I'm like, oh, God, here we go. Right? Like, it's like, bro, like I wasn't 16 the other day. Now, George, I'm not sure if you've been a young black male recently, but as a young black male, there's a big 4. Okay. Now the big 4, these are our career options. They are drug dealer, rapper, scammer, basketball player.
Okay.
Those are the big 4.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you're a kid and you want to make money and your parents are at work all the time, these are the things that you turn to. Why? Because these are the things that were advertised. You're the advertising genius. If you dangle something in someone's face long enough, they're going to want it. Right? So this is the thing that we see as a young black male.
Okay.
So when I was 16, these are the things that I'm looking up to. 16 years later, 15 years, whatever, how many years later, these kids are talking to me about the same problem. Dude, something's not right.
Sure.
Right? It's like, how are these kids talking and being advertised the exact same thing that I was 15 years ago? And there's still no alternative solution. This doesn't make any sense.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed. Right? And so all of a sudden what's going through my head is like, what do I tell these kids to make them get it? Because they're 16. I could crush their genes and be like, this is stupid decision.
Right.
Right. But bro, I don't want to do that. Why? Because they're just going to lie to me and do it anyways.
Sure.
So what do I tell these kids to make them get it? Do I tell them about the drug dealer who made a bunch of money but got killed? Do I tell them about the drug dealer who made a bunch of money but has been in jail for 7 years? Do I tell them about the wannabe drug dealer who never made any money and is still living at home with his mom and
Sure.
in the 30s, right? With no job prospects? Like what do I tell these kids to make them get it? So it's almost like time froze. And I'm like, how much money do you think you're going to make? And they're like, oh. Like they never thought about
big
this
question.
The big question, bro, these guys didn't even think about this. They're looking around at each other like, $3,000. I'm like, fuck, dude, you're going to be rich, bro.
You're all set, bro.
You're all set, dude.
Yeah.
$3,000. Like you're going to take over the world.
Yeah.
Not even 100. And they're like, whoa. And I'm like, but really, bro, like be honest. Like what if it takes you 10 years to make? Then how much did you really make?
Right.
Right? What if you did it in 1 year? What if you did it in 1 month? What if you did it in a day? And they're like, whoa, do you make this much money? I'm like, no, but I know some motherfuckers who do. So let me go ask them and I'll let you know what they say. And the show was born just like that. So I was like, okay, what can I show these kids? Let me go interview some people that I met. Let me interview some people that I've known. And that was the whole premise of the show. Is, do you remember the first time you made $100,000 in a year? Do you remember the first time you made $100,000 in a month? Do you remember the first time you made $100,000 in a day? Tell me about it. And then you get to explore the different nuances and lessons that they learned along the way.
I love that you identified like a cultural problem.
Yeah. Thanks.
And you spun it into something positive. And I've seen the shows.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And I love the story about your younger brother.
Appreciate it.
You sat back and you're like, this is bullshit, man. Like you could be dead. You're going to be in jail.
Or
Or
broke, bro. No, like
or
you could make
you have no life prospect, right?
None.
Like
none.
so you defined this problem
Thanks.
and you wanted to do something good.
Yeah.
And that now is you're spreading that good
Thank you.
through your platform, through it's awesome. It's awesome. I encourage everyone who hasn't seen it to take some time and check out his stuff because they are inspiring stories.
Appreciate
They're
it.
really good. How are you kind of positioning yourself for long-term success now?
Yeah. So it's a great question. Personally, I bought real estate.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that continues to do what real estate does. The first of the month, collects rent. and the second of the month, it caused me a headache, right? That's what real estate does. But ideally, like, that's kind of like one path of growth that I see. But there's this one guy who reached out to me randomly. Like, he's got 3 million YouTube subscribers or something like that, a couple 100K on Instagram. And he just messaged me randomly. I want to shout out Evan Carmichael. And he's like, believe. I'm like, what are you up to these days, man? And he's like, well, I'm just trying to solve the number one problem that I see in the world. And I'm like, what's that? He's like, people don't believe in themselves. And I was like, that's an interesting perspective. And him and I just walked around this venue for like 2 hours when we were just having a conversation. And, the one thing that had the biggest impact, he said, man, it doesn't sound like you love real estate. And I really like real estate. Like, my math brain loves real estate, but like deep down, I'm like, bro, I don't want to find an ugly property and manage rental guys and have to do all these projects and stuff. Like, there's people that enjoy that generally. Yeah. And like, this is what I enjoy. This is the thing that fires me the most, is just having great conversation with great people. But he's like, maybe real estate served its purpose for you. And the thing that you've got to do is take what you've learned in real estate and apply it in other worlds. And maybe, that Windsor chapter was that Windsor chapter for a reason. Yeah. And that was that. So when you think about like long-term success, a lot of the lessons are being pulled from real estate, which is some of them are, number one, create assets that generate cash flow. Number two is, once you get good enough at creating these cash flowing assets, partner with other people to create even bigger cash flowing assets. And to me, videos are just like real estate. You can create this video once, it's going to live forever, or for as long as we have an internet connection and a platform that we give you videos. And even after the platforms all go down, Mikey might still have it on a hard drive one day, right? So it's like this asset is going to live for forever. So really, my biggest thing is just being focused on building assets. So the 100 ways to make 100K, that's an asset. Yeah. Right. We got another show that we're working on called the Deal Diaries. It's like real estate niche show, right? It's like, that's another asset. Cool. And these assets are going to be sponsorable. They're going to have their own ecosystems. They're going to have their own mailing lists. They're going to have their own, processes and procedures that go with them, and will operate in cadence or whatever. And those will live on its own. And those will be, to me, they've served as great forms of advertising, right? Like, I think best advertising, you don't know it's an advertisement. Yeah. Yeah. And
it's authentic and it hits home, right?
Exactly. Yep. So, when you say, how am I building myself for success? I'm not sure, but I'm just building as many assets as I can. And I'm in kind of like this accumulation of resources phase. So that's kind of like the pursuit kind of that I'm on. What about you? How are you ensuring your long-term success, young man?
I am just happy to be healthy. I mean, all of this stuff is awesome and it helps supplement some of that. But yeah, I'm here, and I'm here to think, again, if I get gratification out of anything, it's out of seeing my efforts bring joy in other people's lives.
Well, this brought joy to mine, so thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, and I appreciate you being on the show. And with that said, I mean, I definitely would recommend you all check out Javon's stuff. It's great, and I hope you a tremendous amount of success in your future.
Thank you.
And for all you landlords who are watching out there, be good to your tenants. Yeah. Times are tough.
It's your customer.
Be good to your people, and just don't throw them out on the streets, because that's not fair to anybody. So, anyways,
can I share one last gift?
You most certainly can.
And this is loaned from a friend of mine who was loaned from his mentor. And it's about like long-term success. That was the question, like, how are you setting yourself up for success? Yeah. And I think success is up for definition, of course. But like you said in the podcast that I had him on, there's always a three-legged stool of life that you need to balance. And the objective should be to have all three. And it changes throughout your life, but this balance is critical. And the three facets, or the three legs of the stool, are time, health, and money. And he says, when you're young, you have time and health, but no money. When you're middle-aged, you have money and health, but no time. And when you're old, you have time and money, but no health. So, he's been trying to master all three. And I think that's kind of like what I'm trying to do as well. I thought that was a really beautiful way of capturing life.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, to the pursuit of the big three.
To the pursuit of the big three. And with that said,
yeah,
we're out.
Yeah, thanks for spending your time watching this. I appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys follow whatever George has got going on at NVISION. Man, it's a really cool marketing company. They're doing all sorts of things. So I'm honored to be here.
This is true. We out. See ya.
Peace.
Thanks for watching this video. If you got something out of it, please like, subscribe, or share it with your friends.